Welcome to our first century. We're your hosts, Ty and Christa, and in this special episode, we're diving into the heart of TA Loving Company's culture, exploring how family has been and continues to be the cornerstone of everything we do.
In today's episode, Family Matters, we're joined by an incredible lineup of guests, Dwight Daniels Jr. and Dwight Daniels Sr., Tony Robinson, Linn Moore, and Daniel Moore. Together, they will share stories and reflections of the unique bond that defines TA Loving Company and why family means so much to us here. Let's dive in.
Dwight, Christa mentioned stories right then. What's a good story you want to talk about? What's a favorite memory?
I guess my favorite memory is we was doing a job over on I think it's Blackfish Creek. It was a electrical control panel project, and it was one of those days that we had to get a piece of equipment from one side of the road to the other one. I mean, from the creek to the one side of the creek to the other one, and I was, young and gun-ho back then, and I just actually took the piece of equipment and kind of walked it across the creek because we had to get it over there. And lo and behold, didn't nothing happen. We got it across, and everything was good. But that's one of my favorite memories of working here, is that particular project.
I thought you were going to say we lost the machine in the creek.
No.
He's come with good memories.
That's what it would have happened if I had done that. So, well, how many years have you been with TA Loving Company?
This year is 29 years.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So, what's your what brought you to TA Loving Company?
Well, I mean, before I knew you of TA Loving Company when I was working with Hawley Construction, and the opportunity arose for me to come and do better, to improve myself. And, I made the right choice to come with TA Loving, and I've been here for 29 years.
And it's been a fun ride.
It have. I will say that. It haven't been cake and ice cream every day, but nevertheless, the good days outweigh the bad days. I will say that. And then it's just a fun company, family, order being a company to work for.
Well, Junior, same question for you. What story is memorable for you at this point in your career?
Best story for me would be working in Kinston. I hadn't been here long. I maybe been here about 6 months, and William was on that job actually. It's the Neuse River project, and the best memory is seeing Greg Moretti's face when he came up, and we had took the cab off the mini excavator and set it down in the hole, and William was in there digging, and he came and blew all up. That's about the best memory I had.
Well, I want to know, did you willingly come to TA Loving Company, or was there some arm twisting involved by your dad?
Well, it wasn't so much him. It was Paul Hunter.
Okay.
He would say, Paul said you need to come work with us. Paul said you need to come work with us. So I came back and I said, well, Paul need to call me if he want me to come work. And maybe about the next day, Paul called. So I had to come work then.
All right. Yeah, you talked, and then you had to pony up.
Yep.
Well, question about the loyalty across generations. Why do you think that's so prominent at TA Loving Company? We were talking to Tony earlier. We've got a lot of different families that are represented by multiple generations. Mm-hmm. And what do you think that the reason for that is?
Well, I mean, as I stated all the time, that it's a well-groomed family company, and I guess my thing is that when you see a family as good as TA Loving, and you have a son or daughter that wants to come work with TA Loving, he can say it won't all about Paul, it was about myself too, getting him to come here. But nevertheless, I really think that TA Loving cares about their people, because like I said, in 29 years that I've been here, I haven't seen nothing but good stuff with TA Loving. I never had to worry about being laid off, anything like that. But I think it's just a well-oiled company that's been directed by a family for so long.
Agreed. I think it is. It is a great place to work.
My takeaway here too, Junior, is that your dad was kind of running the scheme behind the games and he was telling you Paul wanted to come. And then he went and told Paul, you need to call him right now. So I think there was a little bit more than what
Then
you
what
were
I know.
told. Yeah. So, Junior, tell us about a project where you worked alongside your dad.
Oh goodness, all of them in Fayetteville. They are not easy working with him because he expects the absolute most.
I've heard that.
He is the hardest person to work with. By me being his son, he takes it no easy on me at all, not at all.
So he doesn't take it easier on you. Does he make it harder on you?
Yeah, he does because he expects his work to look like mine or my work to look like his, and that don't happen all the time. Because he's more skilled. He's been here 29 years and I've been here 5. So he's a whole lot better at stuff than I am.
Well, Dwight, how does it make you feel to see your son coming into this business, coming into this company, and you having such an influence on his career? How does that make you feel?
I'm gonna be honest with you. It makes me feel good because I lost my dad last year, and that's really how I got started. So it's just, I think it's a family trait because my dad was in construction for 40-something years, and lo and behold, I see him like I was when I was at his age. And I will say, right now he's kind of a little bit upscale than what I was at his age, but nevertheless, it makes me feel good to see him want to not only be like me, but try to be better than what I am. And if as long as he stay here with this company, I can assure you that he's sky's the limit. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, you're right. It is. As a parent, it is a great thing when you see your children find their place where they need to be, and this is such a great place for folks. So, Junior, you've got a wonderful future ahead of you.
Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of opportunity here too.
Well, I plan to be better than him anyway,
Well, I mean, I heard him say that too, right? He just told us that you're a little more advanced than what he was when he was in your position.
Well, that's because of technology.
Maybe, but it might also be because he's holding you accountable to those standards, right?
Yeah.
If he's raising the bar, you got to work harder to reach it.
Yeah.
So you guys have worked together on several projects. We've talked about a couple of them. What's another project that you worked on together that maybe really was challenging or trying for the two of you in a father-son relationship, or was a great example of how you worked together?
Area 26.
That came really quickly.
Area 26, yep.
Tell us about it.
A lot of arguing between us on Area 26.
What were you arguing about?
A bunch of different things. How I wanted to do stuff, it wasn't how he wanted it done, so it was incorrect in his eyes. But it will all come to the same, outcome. But he just wasn't having it because it wasn't his way. So we would bump heads, and he would go on and send Hunter over there, and then everything would be good to go.
So how did you reach resolution? Or maybe the better question is, whose ideas won?
There was no resolution. He would just leave, and y'all figure it out, and Hunter would come over there, and he would just let me go, and things would get done.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yep.
We don't necessarily have to agree on the process as long as we reach the same outcome.
Yep.
What's your opinion on that job, Dwight?
Well, I would say this. I would like to try to make him understand that, my expectations of building a project may not be like his, but, at the end of the day, with the expertise that I have, if the younger generation would take the expertise of the older ones, they'll realize that their work will actually be a whole lot easier. And yes, we don't. I'm not going to say that we argued. It's just to the point that I wanted to make a statement to him that this is the way that we do things here. And then I just get in my truck and leave. But then when I come back, sometimes it's done the way like Pop said it needs to be done. But there's times that, and I say this because these younger ones coming up, we can't expect them to follow our traits and do like we did when we was coming up, because again, like he said, there's a whole lot of stuff that has changed. Back then when I was coming up, we didn't have a lot of trench boxes like the company supplies us with now. The equipment that they have now, there's a lot of shoring that has been put in place. And, at the end of the day, the boss is always right.
You do have to answer to someone, I guess.
A minute ago you mentioned technology. How's technology changed what you do every day?
With the quick couplers on the buckets, like he said, shoring. The pole drivers, we got hydraulic pole drivers now. You ain't got to work so hard. Jetter trailers, you ain't got to try to shovel out so much stuff. It's a bunch of things that's been changed in today's construction that helps out now that they didn't have, access to.
Yeah. And it's always, it's interesting to see the new technology and make sure we're looking for it and implementing that new technology, because it does help.
It does. It really does.
Dwight, you've been threatening or promising, I'm not sure what the right word is, retirement. So when that time comes beyond, then what are your hopes for Junior after you have moved on to the next chapter of your life?
Well, I do pray and hope that he continues to work for the company, because, when he first met Ty, he said, "Well, I'm going to be like my dad." No, Ty said, "No, you need to be better than your dad. You're gonna be better than your dad." So I do believe that as long as he stay here, he only been here 3 years. And I will say, and I'm not saying it because he's my son, but I will say that he's more productive than a lot of the crew members that I have seen that's been here longer than he have. So I hope he stay, which I know he will.
That also sounds like a threat.
Because the company is going to do what they got to do to make sure that he stays. So I know he's going to make the right choice. And the right choice, and I tell anybody, is to come work for TA Loving. I wouldn't have it no other way.
The skill set you're learning right now is truly incredible. The jobs we build, the conditions you're in on the job you've mentioned earlier, very few people in this world can do what you do. And the ability to be able to explain that to the people under you and for them to understand how critical everything we do is to the communities we serve, I think is truly something we need to focus on and talk about, because the projects we build are all essential. The services we provide provide a quality of life that we all are accustomed to, and we're able to improve that on a regular basis for folks. So it's like I always say, we've got to really get that to all of our team members that are in the field and doing hard things every day, how much it's appreciated, because it is a great thing.
So, Junior, your dad's talked about what TA Loving Company means to him on a personal level. What does it mean to you on a personal level?
On a personal level, it gave me a chance to learn something different that I probably wouldn't have learned, just being somewhere else. It gives me an opportunity to learn how to operate equipment, and basically, like Ty said, learn what we're providing the community in Fayetteville, with sewer lines and water lines and stuff like that. It's basically help grow the community. So I appreciate TA Loving for the opportunity to be an employee here and be able to learn different things. It means a lot, honestly. And then to be able to work under him, it's another up to it.
What word or words come to mind when you hear the name TA Loving Company?
I would say family, because this is a family-oriented company, versus other construction companies, as you see, so broad. This is a more compact, company where mostly everybody here, versus if you go somewhere like Wooten or something, you might not know half of the people.
How about you, Dwight?
I mean, I totally agree with everything he said. These 29 years that I've been here, it's been good, great. And what I love so much about this company is that the growth that they allow me to be a part of, and then not only that, to have the freedom to be able to run the job like I want. And I love that.
Well, I've got one last question I'll ask both of you.
Mm-hmm.
What makes TA Loving Company a great place for multiple generations to work together? You've talked about you two working together. We've got other families where we've got generations that are working together. Why is TA Loving Company the place to do that?
That's a broad question, I feel like. I would say TA Loving is the place to do that because, like, for yourself, the sky's the limit. So you can grow as you want to, not as, say, me working for him. He's gonna say, "Hey, you're gonna be a laborer the rest of your life," or "You're gonna lay pipe the rest of your life." No, I'll start as a laborer and then allow to move up. And a lot of companies don't do that, or not just the companies. It might be the foremans or the superintendents. They really don't like to see people grow sometimes because that'll change their way of life. It might put a little bit more weight on them if someone moves up, in which TA 11 is not like that, and I like that.
Yeah, we definitely look to grow our people from within, right? We want to grow and develop all of our people so that they can have good, strong careers here.
I say this, and I think I said it in the last interview that we had in Raleigh. I encourage everybody that I meet to come and be a part of TA Loving Company, due to the fact that he states it on every annual meeting that we have. Sky is the limit, and that's what I like. That we don't have a boss that's up here that don't care about the people down here. That's not the way it is here, and I'm not going to say that other companies are not like that, but I've heard other people say that it's not well oiled at other companies as I present it to them that it is here at TA Loving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much a group of people working together.
We as a company, we got to continue to do what we do, and that is to hire good employees and do whatever it takes to whenever they get here to keep them here, and just let them know. And like I said, every Monday morning meeting that we let our group know that we got 40-some peoples in Fayetteville that we're working now. That sky's the limit. It's going to be up to you whether you want to stay here or whether you want to be up here. And that's my main giddy up, to make people not only want to come here, but only want to continue to be elevated in the company. And I know this guy and the ones above him is not going to have a problem doing that.
Well, I want to thank both of y'all for spending time with us today. It's really been a lot of fun, and I've enjoyed it.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you both, Dwight and Junior, for coming today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you guys for having us.
Tony, someone in your family has worked at TA Loving Company since 1940.
Yep.
Tell us what you know about how your family's connection with TA Loving Company began and evolved over time.
Most of them started out as crane operators. I don't think you had to be certified back in that day. So we had 4 or 5 crane operators, and from that point forward, my uncle, father, and myself all followed in. So we've been anything from foremans to superintendents to PMs to you name it.
Yep. Quick story. My very first job with TA Loving Company was working in the summers And Tony and I were on, that was the first job I was on. Tony was the first person I met with TA Loving Company. And we worked that summer together and a
Yep,
whole
the
lot of
Kinston
summers
Pump
beyond
Station.
that.
Yep, sure did.
So, Tony, how did you start? Did you start as a laborer?
I
And
started
what was
as
your
a
path?
$3 an hour laborer. I told my father after graduating that I was going to take a couple of weeks off, and he didn't see that. So that Monday morning, I was in Greensboro pulling a mud hog and hooking up pipe. So
Okay. What are some of the most memorable projects your family has worked on over the years at TA Loving Company?
well, I worked for my father on the first plant job I think we did, the Mount Olive wastewater treatment plant, and I built a fish hatchery, the Vic Thomas Fish Hatchery in Brookneal, Virginia. That was kind of unusual. And I even built a guard shack for a water treatment plant in Raleigh. Built some all of it.
What stands out to you about each of those? What's making it memorable?
The people that I work with. I mean, the relationships I've made over the years, they're worth more than gold to me. So.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. All the people you meet and all the influence they have on you, and the interesting people you meet, and unique characters, and it is a fun business from that perspective.
It is, at that. And a lot of them's passed on, but they were all good people.
Can you tell us any stories about some of those folks?
Jim Fields, he was quite a character. He was a pipe foreman. Worked on many projects with him, but you had to know Jim to understand him. Charles Smith was a pipe foreman. I actually worked for Charles Brogdon. That was my first foreman that I had here at TA Loving. And of course, I got promoted from then to the Dennings, to Donald Denning and Albert Denning. And I've been some everywhere.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of the folks you just mentioned, they're similar to you. They had generations of folks that worked in the company also.
Yep. Worked with all the Humphreys, Dewey, Woodrow, David, you name it.
Yeah, that's always a neat thing to be able to tell people, or how we are into the third, fourth generation of different families.
Yeah, I think Tony told me that Dewey started after the war, and so that was best we could tell at that time. So
yeah. Tony, from a how things get built perspective, construction and the technology that's available, how have you seen that change over your career?
The tools we use to do it. Of course, we don't do a lot of shovel work, and we do a little bit, but we don't do near as much as we used to. Mini excavators and all this small stuff has made things quicker and a little more convenient. So,
yeah, I agree. In a lot of ways it's changed, but in a lot of ways it hadn't changed.
No, I mean, you go from using a hairpin hammer to driving sheet into a vibrating hammer. That's a big difference. So.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to ask two questions. So I'm going to ask a past and a present. What's a technique that you used in the past that you wish was still the preferred or typical technique to do something?
I'll tell you what comes to mind while you're thinking of what your response is. The ability to lay out on a site. It's something that with technology you lose a lot of that skill set. So that's the one thing that I've noticed. There's just a dependence on folks that where in the past you would have done that yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably been one of the biggest changes I've seen.
I'd say layout, because I mean, if you had an existing plant, you got buildings and all to pull measurements off of. Probably the hiring process. I mean, it's more extended now than it was before. A guy come up on a job site and want a job, you say, get out there and show me what you got. Mm-hmm. We'll do the paperwork Friday. Let's see what you got. That's just slowed things down a little bit, not a lot.
For sure. So let's go to the opposite side of that now. What are the innovations or practices that we have today that we didn't have before that you're so grateful for?
But we used a lot of air hammers back in the day on our arms and shoulders. Now we use machines with breakers on them, so we don't have to do that much. A lot easier. Mm-hmm. We broke a couple of holes for you down there in New Bern through a wall. It was a we were working them off our shoulders. You got a 90-pound hammer on your shoulder, working it. That's an all-day job right there.
Yeah, you're right. What's the memory that you have about TA Loving Company that stands out the most?
I've been a part of it since I was 8 years old. So, I mean, I've seen the shop evolve from, Jack Ledford and Porky and Pee Wee and helping Jack on Saturday get the honeybee out of his hives over there to where it's at now. But still, it's the people. I mean, the people make it what it is for me. I enjoy that. So sometimes we have to have hard conversations, but nevertheless, it's all good, just business. So,
but probably one of my memories is just the and it's people, but it's just within your family, the influence you've had on me, the influence your father Ken had on me, your uncle Donald had on me. I didn't know your grandfather, but it's really impressive, and it's really impactful for me personally to have been a part of that.
Yeah, now Granddaddy he was tough.
Yeah.
He impacted Doodle a lot, if you remember.
So you said you wanted to take some time off before you came to work. Your dad had different plans for you.
Absolutely.
If we rewind back from that, what are your memories about what you heard about TA Loving with having so many family members work here?
The biggest, and I really didn't envision going to work for TA Loving because my dad spent a lot of time out of town. And growing up, that was, kind of tough. I thought about maybe going to work for AP Parts or somewhere like that. And Goldsboro at the time was one of the hot things. So, but I wouldn't trade it. It worked out well. So I didn't know it would be 42 years, but anyway.
It kind of slips by, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It kind of flies by. You look in the mirror and go, yeah, it is.
Well, it only flies when you're having fun, so it's a good indicator.
Most of it's been fun. We've had some times that were challenging, that's for sure. So,
yeah, no doubt about that.
How do you get through those challenging times?
You say they won't last forever, and you just put your head down and plow through it. So sometimes you're in water trying to get a bottom in a hole. Sometimes you're trying to get a piece of equipment set because the startup guy's coming tomorrow, and we ain't ready. So just a lot of challenges, but you get through them.
Mm-hmm. We talked about that in one of the previous episodes about how one of our primary responsibilities is problem solving. Yes, we build things, we problem solve, and we build relationships and manage people.
You try.
Yeah, and I think you're bringing up a good point. The perseverance you have to have in this business and to see something through. Because, a lot of times just the fear of starting something, like when you start a deep excavation, that is challenging. At best, it's challenging. And you have to just fight it, and you just got to stay with it. And that's a big part of what this business is all about.
We always tell the guys, let's just get an island. If we can get an island, a stone to stand on, we got it.
Yeah.
Right? And it's ours. We'll get it.
Yeah. What advice would you give people that are coming into the business right now?
Be patient. People are not patient anymore. The young guys aren't. They want everything now right in front of them. So, I mean, you got to have the experience to get going, but you just need to be patient. Your time will come.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Have you and your dad talked about any moments or jobs or projects that stand out to him over his career?
Oh, yeah. Williamston, Rivers and Associates. He talks about that a lot. So they had a kind of a rough job there. He remembers that very well.
What does the name TA Loving mean to you?
I look at the T as a part of Tony because I'm going to take ownership of what I do and how I do it. But I appreciate them getting it started up. It sure helped us out. Got me through life, 2 kids through college, so I'm good to go.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier. It's home. It's a refuge. It's somewhere that you can count on.
You know everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
you know everybody's quirks. You know everybody's what they got. So I like that.
Well, what do you hope for TA Loving Company as we move into our next 100 years?
Just much prosperity and a good 100 years to go. So I won't be a part of it, but hope to leave it better than I found it. So hopefully.
You'll be a part of some of it, just not all 100 of it.
Yeah, I think leaving it better than you found it, I think that's great. And then also providing that opportunity for the folks coming into the business, I think is important. And I think that's what we're doing now at this point in our careers. That's
We're
really
trying
what
to
we're doing.
recognize the talent of the young guys and
Yeah.
put them in positions to see how to respond. So.
Yeah, that's a good way to say that.
What stories do you tell other people about your time here?
How much fun we have. I mean, we laugh. I mean, we're serious, don't get us wrong, but we laugh.
Mm-hmm.
You know, me and Wayne Hunt will tell you right now, he's seen me fall down and I've seen him fall down. We couldn't help each other up. We wanted to. We just, I fell off a wall one day, just, and there wasn't but one hole of water, but I fell in it. That's what I fell in. So, and he's shooting great about 100 feet away, and I look and I see him. It was the funniest thing in the world. So,
Well, it is a fun business.
it is.
It's a hard business, but it's also, there is a lot of fun in it.
Well,
Find a lot of joy in what we do.
I think it's like that in any business, but ours is just, you know, we're outside and it's raining. Who knows what we're going to get tomorrow. So we fight the elements as well as owners and engineers, and tried to put a motor on today and the shaft was too short, so that don't work. We got to rewire everything back up. So.
Well, Tony, it's been fun to be able to sit here with you and talk about some of the past and then also talk about the future. And I just want to thank you for everything you've done. And I appreciate the great friendship over the many, many years. And thank you for being here today and being part of this.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Linn and Daniel, welcome. We're glad you're here with us today.
Glad to be here.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for taking the time. Linn, I'm gonna start off with you. Tell us about when your career with TA Loving began.
1988. Let's see. I was working down at Man's Harbor Shiplift. I worked for J.H. Hudson back then, and my wife, she called, but you didn't have nothing but landlines back then, and that afternoon I was staying down there. So that afternoon my wife called and she said, by the way, she said, this guy named Mr. Bill Franklin called from TA Loving Construction Company, wanted to know if you were available. And my wife told him, no, he's working. He's down in Man's Harbor. And she told me about it that afternoon. When I got talking to her, on the phone, I said, well, I'd been with Loving been with J.H. Hudson for about 6 years. Mm-hmm. And I was down there shooting anchor bolts, about 38,000 anchor bolts to run rails on. I got thinking about that thing for the next day or two, and I said, well, maybe I'll call this fella back and see what the deal is. Daniel was just born good, and I think he's 8 years old. Mm-hmm. And I said, and we had a little daughter, Sonia, and I said, well, let me check this thing out just to see, because, So I made the phone calls on a Thursday, and they said, can you come down here tomorrow? I'm like, well, I was in Man's Harbor making this phone call down to Bill Frank. It was Mike Richter, matter of fact, that I was talking to. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, let me see what I can do, because then I had to get out of work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
From Man's Harbor, live in Greenville, come all the way down here. So anyhow, I did that, made the trip, and talked to Mike and Bill, and I got to thinking, I said, well, maybe it's time to make a change. And so I took a chance, because I had a good job. I mean, I was a superintendent, I was salaried, but 26, 27 years old, I'd been superintendent with him since I was 22. Mm. And I said, well, I'm going to make a change. Maybe it might work out great.
Yeah.
And so I did, and 36 years, and you're about working on 37 years later, I'm still here. So
yeah, it's always interesting to hear everybody's story, how they got here, and then what's happened over the years. So, and it does fly by. It doesn't. 36
like
years.
30 minutes.
It's
just like it was nothing. He was a little youngin', and he's been with us 20 years, and yes, just one day, every day.
Yeah, it is that.
What was the thing that made you think maybe it's time to make a change?
Well, I had just purchased, I was doing very well for myself, back to be young. We had young, and my wife and I got married right after high school. And I said, well, shoot, maybe it's time to make a change because they offered me a superintendent position just like I was doing. And I said, well, you can always try to better yourself. I said, the worst case scenario, I can get back to work. Hopefully, didn't burn up bridges there. So I said, well, why not? So I come down here just to see demeanor, so to speak. As soon as I talked to Mike and Bill, you kind of get that sense of, well, these are just good old boys, and it just worked out good. And over the years, you just, you come in and become friends, then friends to family pretty much. Yeah. And because, everybody's going to kind of look out for each other as best we can.
So the opportunity for growth is what
absolutely
made you consider it. Yeah. So you said 23 or 25 years, Daniel?
20.
20 years. So 20 years ago, what motivated you to join your dad here at TA Loving Company?
So I graduated high school, went to community college, started there in computers. I've always been hands-on, watching Dad doing his thing and, just working on cars and working around the house and all. I've always been hands-on, so I go to community college and computers and love the install and the maintenance and putting one together. Got into the programming and like, it's not my thing. So, of course, talking with the family and Dad about it, he's like, well, ECU's got a good construction management program. Why don't you go there? I'll get you on with TA Loving. And lo and behold, 20 years later, I'm here. That's where I'm at. So I've been here ever since.
Yeah, it's always a great story about how the company is there and it's an influence and really provides an opportunity for folks. I know we do a lot of interesting projects. Are there any of them that come to mind for both of you about what you would like to talk about and what's most memorable for you?
All of them they've got their stories behind them, I reckon. But I think the one that I still cherish the most right now is the one that built Children's Hospital. Number one, design. It wasn't the most largest project we ever done, but the design of it, pretty neat, and then knowing what we were doing, looking at the plans and stuff prior to getting started, how it was going to affect the children and stuff. That was a good motivation, especially when you got grandchildren. Back then, Daniel was married and his wife was pregnant, so my wife and I was getting ready to have some grandyoungins. So, and they were born, Sydney was born in there while we were still building Children's Hospital, so that was cool. And after the fact, Sonia Aiden was born, my grandson, from my daughter, in that building. So I was sitting in there with the two youngest while we were waiting on her to, no, this was after Aiden was born there also. Them two were little, and then Sophie come along in there. So this was all in a matter of, 5 years or something? So from the time we built the building, 5 years later, we walked through there. So I had two of the youngest. I had Sydney and I had Aiden by the two fingers. We were walking down the thing that had the fish tanks and this and that and all that, waiting on Sophie to be born. I thought that was, being able to walk by that and with the two youngins.
Yeah.
Stuff and looking at, how it's got the fish and stuff.
Yeah, right.
And know that, hey, you got to help build this thing. So,
yeah, it's nice when you can, all the projects we do are essential. They mean something for people. And then to be able to go back and really walk through there and see the influence it has, it is really.
Well, that and you got your two little grandyoungins, you know what I mean? And that was it was just, it's like, I can remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
your
good
personal
story.
history is now aligned with your professional history.
Yeah.
That's right. And, you know, riding by just like the Heart Center, the Cancer Center, you ride by just that corner of Stampford Road. You look and say, well, you know, hey, you were the superintendent on all that stuff.
Yeah.
Not counting all that ECU stuff. But gives you, you know, a lot of pride in taking
Yeah.
it. I don't need money. Monetary thing is one thing, but, you know, you making a good living, but just being able to see something that wasn't there before, and it is now, and it's a milestone for Pitt County or something.
Yeah. Really all of Eastern North Carolina. You know, that's a big influence on the area. So, Daniel, any projects that come to mind for you?
Again, there's so many. Children's Hospital, like Dad was saying, I had worked on it a little bit too. And went in there, and I think I was transitioned from project engineer, or learning that aspect before I became a superintendent. So I worked over there for a little while, and then I go do another job. Then I have my child, and Dad's still working over there, and he's able to leave the job and come check on us, and then go back to work all right there, looking at temporary walls that are painted up and decorative for the kids. You know, looking at the company that Dad works for and I work for, you know, did all this, and it doesn't affect just my family, but everybody else's. Even going back to ECU was another project, the Joiner Library. Like we talked, I had changed majors from community college and computers to going to ECU construction management, and Dad had built the Joiner Library.
Right.
So I'm studying there and walking by there's a water wall that they had built where it shoots these streams. There was columns with bells that jingle, and, you know, being kind of somewhat young and going to college there, it's just prideful to be able to say, hey, company that my dad works for, and he built this right here, and we built that, and
Yeah, yes. Big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
and then
he ain't taken away from you, you know.
No, it's that's great. Great examples of how this company impacts
Exactly.
our
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
then the Heart and Cancer Center. I worked on the Heart Center a little bit as a foreman before I took off. I was still in college at the time. And then Dad with the Cancer Center, he was actually one of the superintendents on the Cancer Center. Found out he had a battle with cancer, and
Yeah.
so for obviously he's here, which is good. So the buildings we built affect our lives, because maybe if
Yeah.
they didn't catch it or didn't do the procedure correctly, he wouldn't be here. And we're just one story. There's so many others
So
that
many.
that Heart Center, Cancer Center is all affected.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You both just shared examples of how your professional history aligns with your personal history. Lynn, I want to ask you about family values and TA Love and Company values. How do you see those align, or how have you seen those align over the years between your family and the company?
Pretty much the same, you know, family life in this company, been working for all these years, it's pretty much just same standard. You know, I mean, integrity, being honest, just doing the right things.
Mm-hmm.
Do the right things, you're going to always end up with the right outcome, regardless whether it's a win or lose sometimes, you know, but you can't go wrong that way.
It's easy to stay somewhere for 36 years when there is alignment between how you live your life and the expectations at work. It makes it a seamless transition from your personal life to your work life.
Absolutely. I mean, like I was saying before, Ty and Daniel and all the people, David Filiard and all the people that work here, you know, it's like family. Like when you go home and you see the other people, and that's, if it wasn't like that, I wouldn't be here this long ago. You know, it ain't sometimes, like I said, it's not all about the monetary thing. It's more about how, you know, just for instance, when I had a broken leg, and you get, you know, you don't know what you're going to do, this and that, blah, 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 because some, you know how some companies are, and they look out for you just like any other thing. I mean, just, I think really what sold me on this company is when I first started, to be honest with you, when I first started, and I went and done the wells renovation, done wells renovation, and something at the ball for Steve. There was a paint shop or something. And he got through with that. They said, well, we ain't got nothing for you to do right now. I'm saying, okay, this ain't been 8 months now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, oh, you got to be kidding me. You know? So, and I had a brand new truck, you know, and I said, well, all right, Mr. Frank said, we'll go home. We'll call you when we need you. I said, okay. So I spoke to my wife, and I told her the same thing. And she said, that don't seem right. I said, no, I know it don't. You know, and so about a week goes by, and I'm sitting there fidgeting, wondering about, well, you know, here I am, just changed jobs.
Mm-hmm.
What's the deal here, you know? And I called up and I said, y'all got anything for me? And I said, no, just be by the phone, you know, when you need, because we didn't have cell phones back then. You had to be at the house with a landline now.
Yeah.
So you didn't want to go nowhere, you know, you couldn't do anything. And next thing, about a month went by, and I said, I was going to get worried, but I got my paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
So I called up Mr. Franklin again. He said, I said, Mr. Frank, you got anything? He said, no, we got something coming up that we think, but we're working on it. He wouldn't give you an honest, I mean, he'd give you an honest answer, but he didn't know what happened.
No details.
No details, right. And then about a month and a half, 2 months went by, and I was going to get used to it then. I'm like, daggone, you know. So I wouldn't call every day. I'd call every once a week or something. And I'd do little stuff around the house, but you still had to be right there by the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, I called up one time, and he told me, he said, are you getting a paycheck? And I said, yes, sir. He said, but don't worry about it. He said, when we call you, when we need you, we'll call you. And then it wasn't long after that, they called, and I had to do, I think it was Wayne Radiology,
Right.
Southeastern Medical Center, and Dr. Motorparties.
Yeah.
And then from then on, it's just been, so, but somebody do that, you know, so that's what give my wife and I that security.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, say, well, they're going to look out for you. So it's worked out good.
Yeah, that's a good. I like the way you said that. Because I do believe this company does provide security for folks.
Absolutely,
And it's a comforting place to
It
know.
is, yeah.
To know that's there for you.
Well, when you know, just like Mr. you know, Mr. Ray,
Mm-hmm.
Shine, you remember Shine
Yeah.
back in the day?
Yeah.
All these people that you know, but these are, you know, Mr. Ray, the owner of the company, but I also go to his house a lot and do his renovation
Yeah.
for him and his wife. I think Daniel kind of took the reins on that after I got doing other stuff. And you get to know him personally.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
like he loves
Oh,
to
yeah.
play drums and
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
just,
Exactly.
just give you that comfort. When you got that comfort, then you can do your best work because you don't have to worry about that.
You can do great things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you've mentioned it a couple of times, the changes in just how we make phone calls and how the accessibility. But when you think about how the industry's changed over the years, what comes to mind for both of you? You've both been in the business for quite some time.
Well, I know I used to tell some of these project managers, I said, well, I ain't got no computer up my butt. I can't walk outdoors with a computer, you know, because started out if you had a landline,
Mm-hmm.
then you might get a copy machine. And later on, you get a fax machine. You were
Mhm.
doing good, then, see. And then you had your handheld radios, and then, you know, all this other stuff come up. But I was telling them, well, I ain't got a computer in my back pocket, you know, because you had to go back and you had to write stuff down. You had to fax it back then and stuff.
Mhm.
Where now you just
We do have a computer in
you
our
got a
back pocket.
computer in your back pocket, so
Yeah.
you can.
So, what is the point? This is for either of you. What's the point, maybe that you noticed at the time, or you notice now looking back, when you got more and more technology that it started to become maybe a little bit of a hindrance instead of always helpful?
That's a hard question.
That is
Yeah.
a hard question.
Well, it is. It's something I wonder about a lot because we talk a lot about how having so much accessibility and having so much information coming at you all the
Well,
time
you
can be
can't
a
have
challenge.
too much of a good thing, you know. what I
Right.
mean?
So
You
when
can-
did it
Yeah.
become too much?
right now. I mean,
It's like the speed of things is probably what the way I
that's
would
just
think
like,
about that.
you know, some of these guys, you know, that work, some of the superintendents or the project managers that kind of work on you, kind of mentoring or something. Tell them sometimes you got to be steady. You can't be just fast. You know what I mean? Just slow and this. You got to pick. Timing is everything. I don't care what you do. Just like playing drums or singing or walking or running. Timing is everything. So you got to take that in consideration, and you got to be realistic about things too.
Yep.
So, you know, like multitasking, you know, people say, well, there's not such a thing as multitasking. Well, there is such a thing as quadruple tasking if you know how to do it, you know. But you got to be sufficient in it, you know. So it's got its pros and cons for me. I mean, because I'm not good at this stuff at all. But once I figure it out, you know, it's very handy.
Yeah.
I think one of the hindrances or just something I've seen that's tough to navigate, but we do it. There's so much communication back and forth. You have to check with this, you got to check with that, but then nobody really wants to take responsibility. They've all got a document or 20, 30, 40-page document that, okay, well, I did it this way. I know how to do it. I've done it. But does it conform to this? Well, if I really conform to this 100%, it's going to take me 10 times as long and 10 times as much as what I really feel is a no. But then you have 10 guys that you got to check with, you know, your engineers, this and that. Did they really put the work in? They don't seem like they want to stamp it. They're
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, if my calculation correct, but I've just seen that, and it's tricky, but you
Yeah.
get through
At
it.
the end of the whole conversation, somebody's got to make a decision.
Exactly
And
right.
that's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
And
And it has made everything
Yeah.
super fast.
Well, that's what used to. You started out, you had a superintendent, right?
yeah.
And you may have, if it's a small job, you had a lead man, so
Yeah.
to speak. Then if it was a bigger job, you had a superintendent foreman. And then that foreman had kind of lead man. And then next thing you know, now you got this, in my opinion, just got 10 times the amount of people you need. It's just too much delegate, you know, delegating. Yeah, one person can't do it all. Sometimes you got to have one person driving, regardless of how much delegation you do.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and sometimes it gets just a bit too much, I think.
Yeah.
Now, that's just a matter of opinion, but that's the way I feel about it.
No, I mean, we talk about a lot about how collaboration is not groupthink. So collaborating doesn't mean everybody has to agree. It means that you are engaging multiple different people to get different perspectives, but ultimately one person has to make the decision.
Absolutely.
So I think that's what you're talking about. And I think you're talking about that too, Daniel. Who is the person who's going to make that decision? And what's the timeline for the decision? Because yes, we need to include multiple people. And also, ultimately, it lies on one person and a timeline.
Yeah. That's a good.
And that's exactly right. When you delegate to somebody, this person, there's a certain parameter. Okay, when he gets to a certain thing, you know, he's not going to make that decision. That superintendent's going to make that decision.
Yeah. And, you know, as much as things change, that our business stays the same in a lot of ways. And
Absolutely.
it still requires us to show up with a lot of people to do hard things.
That's right.
And how we move information around and all those things. Yeah, it moves quicker, and it's maybe a better way to do it. But we still have to motivate a workforce
Absolutely.
and
That's
lead
right.
in that field and make sure we're doing the right things out there
right,
on a
'cause
daily basis.
That person that you delegate this to do this thing, if he don't do his job properly, this next person may not do his job properly because
Right.
he didn't get right feedback.
Yeah.
And then all that goes back to us. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So that's super important. And the more you get to delegating, like, okay, I want him to handle all the, just say, trash cleanup. But then Daniel said, okay, Joe Blow up yonder, you delegate to do, pick up the bottles and somebody else do something. Next thing you know, you just got to.
Nobody's picked up the bottle.
Nobody's doing
Yeah.
anything.
Somebody's got to
Yeah.
Right.
pick up the bottle.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you both just made a strong focus on the importance of collaboration, leadership, and delegation. What other advice do you have for the next and upcoming generation of TA Loving Company employees?
You get what out of it you put in. The harder you work, the harder you get to play. And that goes to life in general. It's everything. The more you do for others, for yourself, it'll come back to you. Most time, twice as much.
Yeah, if construction business back a long time ago when people got into construction business, that was just, I'm going to go work for this framer, or I'm going to go do this. I mean, that's worst case scenario, so to speak. But now, this is you got to be a lawyer and a police officer and an engineer and an architect, a construction manager and a doctor and a little everything, you know what I mean, just about to perform like you're supposed to. You know? So it's to me, I mean, you see a lot of people right now getting into construction because of all the big jobs all, nationwide, that you got to have competent people. It ain't like just picking up laborers off the street and trying to train them, to dig a ditch or put rebar stuff in them like that because of the time crunch,
Right.
So you got to have competent people to do these things.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
And we do have a deficit industry-wide of people with skill in the industry. So one of the challenges our industry faces is how do we start training younger people to gain those skills?
you're exactly right. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying to keep my head above water doing what I'm doing.
Lead by example is the only thing I know to do.
Exactly. That's right.
We're kind of winding down on our time together, but you've made a couple of points. One, everyone here is your friend. We have a lot of friends in this business, and then it shifts over to family. And we're fortunate. The Moore family is here at TA Loving, but we are a big family. So that is a great way. I like the way you said that earlier.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. That's why, you got a lot of people that's been here a long time, that the longevity, some used to construction business, people wouldn't last long because if that man's going to give you $1 more, you're going to go over there. I mean, that's just the way it was. They're chasing money. Now it's career, like Daniel was saying, you get into it you get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And TA Loving's here to help not only educate folks, but to give them opportunity to have a good, family life and a good life and stuff. You may not be, a multi-millionaire or rich enough, but you're going to make a good living. And the main thing about it is having fun with what you do.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've always enjoyed because I like doing what I do.
And the other thing I was going to mention is we appreciate you all taking care of our music at our Christmas party.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate the opportunity.
That's always a fun time for our
It is.
company, and you all contribute to that.
Yeah, we enjoy that.
Yeah.
We do. Very much. Thanks for having us.
Kind of a way to knock your brain out. Here's what I say. That's something that I've been doing, and everybody's been running into. I've been playing music since before he was born, all over the place, and sometimes I'll be all over the place playing and working too. And we always work together to make sure everything would work for the both parties. So I've always took that into consideration as well.
All right. Well, thank y'all.
Yeah,
you
appreciate it.
both.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today for the Family Matters at TA Loving Company. Please join us in viewing our future podcast.
In the meantime, we'd like to hear how you want to see us continue these conversations. If you have questions that you would like us to answer, please email us at podcast@taloving.com. See you in the next one.